All right, peace and blessings. Hope everybody having a good day. Had a great Sabbath. Got our second lesson, I would say to a degree, part two of what we discussed earlier, which was the Feast of Unleavened Bread and the Passover. Because a lot of people misconstrue this with Passover. So today we got to talk about Easter. And the name of the lesson is Easter, a pagan tradition. A lot of people don't know what they're dealing with. You know, when they're dealing with Easter, the first thing they want to do is, talk about Jesus, right? Well, he rose, he died, he rose again. We believe it, so we go to church on Good Friday, Easter Sunday, because, he rose on the third day. So they say he rose on the third day. And then they say, well, come in here with your Easter best, your Sunday best, because this is a big time thing. This is huge worship going on. So we got to look at what's going on, because we know that Easter is around the same time as the Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread, according to the Bible. However, we also know that that's right after one of those equinoxes. I think it's the vernal, but I'm not sure. So they know that this is the new year, but because they celebrate a different God for their new year in January, they go and they change or move when the year actually starts. It's based on what man say and not what the Bible says. So what is Easter? Easter is, let's say this, starting out, there's definitely some trickery in it. And I just do not find it ironic that it's right after April Fool's, I believe. April Fool's is what I think is like the first day of April, something like that, I think. But I know it's around the same time. And right after that, it's like the following Sunday, or maybe 2 Sundays after. It just really depends. Easter Sunday come in. So right after April has made you a fool, you are falling for pagan worship for Easter Sunday. Why is he saying falling for pagan worship Easter Sunday? So let's get into some simple definitions, etymology. We're going to deal with the Britannica. We're going to deal with, what is this one? I was going to make sure I'm calling it out. New World Encyclopedia and the Britannica Encyclopedia. So we're going to see what exactly Easter's about. So I'm going to start off reading. I guess for me to be able to read, I can't read nothing like that. Yeah, I know, it's crazy. It says the most important and oldest festival of the Christian church. So let's pause. It didn't say nothing about the Bible. It said the Christian church. Can you find the Christian church in the Bible? No, you cannot. So let's look at something else. It's called a festival. What is a festival? It's usually in the similitude of a feast day. Passover and unleavened bread or your feast days, but instead they said, look, let's make a festival. And this is the biggest, the oldest, and most important festival of the Christian church. Who runs the Christian church today? The Pope, right? So that's just something to keep in mind. It says celebrating the resurrection of Jesus Christ and held in the Western church between March 25th and March 21st and April 25th on the first Sunday after the first full moon following the northern spring equinox. So we ain't read nothing about God here, right? I know we read about the Christian church. I know we read about the oldest festival, but we thought this thing was centered around God. But they telling you right here, it's not centered around God. This is centered around the spring equinox. And whatever Easter is centered around that, because that's the name picked for. So let's see, what does Easter mean? Like, where do we get this word? What does this mean? So now, I'm on Edom. What is that? Edomonline.com, however you say that. But this is the etymology. of the word Easter. It says Old English Easter from Ishtar. Then it says from Ishtar, right? So let's let you know where the word came from. Then in parentheses, it says Northumbrian Eastre. So it was Eastre, but in Northumbria, it was Eastre. Then it says from Proto-Germanic Ostron. All these words go back to the same thing, Easter. And it says in parentheses, in quotations, dawn. Let's see what else it says. I'm not interested in dawn. I'm interested in this next part. It says also the name of a goddess of fertility and spring. So they're worshiping the spring coming in. We're going to see why they worship in the spring. It says the name of a goddess of fertility and spring. So if you're dealing with Easter and you're going to the root or the etymology of the word Easter, you're dealing with a fertility goddess that is worshipped in the spring, because in the spring, that's when everything is reborn again. And this fertility goddess uses eggs for fertility and bunnies or rabbits for fertility, because they represent mass reproduction. It says perhaps originally of sunrise. So it's letting you know, even before we got into what I just said, it was actually about the sunrise. So we're going to check out the sunrise too. It says whose feast was celebrated at the spring equinox from Ost, east towards the sunrise. Keep that in mind. It says from Ost, but in quotations, it's letting you know what that means. There was worshiping around the springtime, the fertility goddess, and this fertility goddess name is derived from the same thing that Easter is derived from. It also says that the way they did it, they worship, it says towards the sunrise. Now, let me see. I think that's enough of that. Let's get something else. Ishtar. That's going to be a very all these names are important, not to the worshiping, but to understand where is this coming from. Because we need to know, where does Easter come from? So when we look into this, we get Ishtar, which is the mother goddess, also known as Astarte. Now, we're going to look at all these names. Ishtar, we just finished saying that, hey, these things are about the worshiping of a goddess of fertility. And the way you did it, you worship east towards the sunrise. Now, Easter Sunday, just like many other Sundays, it's just the biggest Sunday. It's about what? Sunrise service. So where did your Pope get your worship from? We're going to see it in the Bible soon. But for now, let's continue. Let's get some information on Ishtar. So now I'm on Britannica.com. It says Ishtar, Akkadian, Sumerian, Inanna. That's what it's called in Samaria, I guess. It says in Mesopotamia religion. So where is Mesopotamia at? That's like Middle Eastern, right? So you're dealing with a Middle Eastern god now. A lot of people have no idea what they're dealing with, but it says in Mesopotamia religion, goddess of war and sexual love. It says Ishtar is the Akkadian counterpart of the West Semitic goddess Astarte. So Ishtar, also known as Easter, whenever you go deeper to the word, has a West Semitic goddess counterpart, which is Astarte. Now, this is very important, because if they were dating or together, hence counterpart, we're going to see what the Bible called them and how long this has been going on, way before Jesus died and rose. Keep that in mind. So why do we have this Easter thing on Sunday? We're going to get to that. We're definitely going to get to that. But for now, we're going to keep reading. It says, Inanna, an important goddess in the Sumerian pantheon, came to be identified with Ishtar, but it is uncertain whether Inanna is also of Semitic origin. or whether, as is more likely, her similarity to Ishtar caused the two to be identified. So, and then it says, in the figure of Inanna, several traditions seem to have been combined. She is sometimes the daughter of the sky god and sometimes his wife. In other myths, she is the daughter of Nana, god of the moon, or of the wind god. Enlil, you do your research on Enlil, that's going to take you all the way back to the beginning. When I say beginning, we talk to creation because they have a creation story for that. Then it says, in her early manifestations, she was associated with the storehouse and thus personified as the goddess of dates, wool, meat, and grain. The storehouse gates were her emblem. So now you see she's been associated with all these different gods, but these are gods that you had to pray to get these things. If you wanted your storehouse filled, you went to these gods. Now, if you understand these gods representing these things and the world still accepting these things, now you understand this is why they still deal with these gods, so they can still get these things. They just wrap it up in Christianity one way, wrap it up in other religions other ways, and you don't see it because they're telling you it's about something that it's not. Well, the real, how do we know? How do we know? We're getting there, but we got another name to get. Let's get Astarte. It says Astarte was a major goddess as known from the northwestern Semitic regions, closely related in name, origins, and functions with the goddess Ishtar in Mesopotamia texts. Notice whether it was northwestern Semitic, where if you go to the north, right, and then when you go to the north and you go to the west, that might be like towards Egypt and things like that. But if you go towards the east, remember the Bible talks about the sons of the east. This is some of the things they were pertaining to. Don't just think Islam, because Islam is not their oldest God. They just remix these things together. This is why it says Mesopotamian text. Text means they have these things in record, right? All right. It says other renderings and transliterations of her name include Ashtar, Ashtaroth, which I think takes you all the way back to Babylonian gods. And then it says Ashtar was connected with the fertility of crops and cattle and wool. Her symbols were the lion, the horse, the sphinx, the dove, and the star within a circle indicating the planet Venus. Oh, so now you see why they want you to be all about these planets, because these planets are being represented by, or maybe the representation of these gods. And so you go through these gods and you go to the planets, or you go through these planets to get to these gods. It's the same thing. All these things lead you away from the book, though. So then it says pictorial representations often show her naked. In the Ugaritic text of Canaan, she is closely associated with Baal, the chief deity of the Canaanite pantheon during the period of the Israelite monarchy. They even put this in the encyclopedia. The Israelites fell because they kept dealing with Baal, and who was worshiping Baal and took them into captivity first? The people of Babylon, not ancient Babylon, the people of Babylon, of the Mesopotamian people, and they still got you up under their Mesopotamian gods today. We're reading it. We're reading it. So let's continue, since it brought up Israelite. It says, in the Bible, she is frequently mentioned as Ashtaroth, a Canaanite goddess whom the Israelites were much tempted to worship against God's will. So it's against God's will to worship these types of things, but we don't even know that we Israel. But even if you don't believe you Israel, it's against God's will to worship these gods, but these gods are not in the forefront. They sit in the background. What's in the forefront is a bunny rabbit, Easter eggs, and Christianity on Sunday sunrise service. So they get you like that. We almost finished with this portion. Let's continue. So it says Easter is nothing else than Astarte. One, and this right here, you can find this online too. I'm getting all different types of sources from the etymology to different encyclopedias to even Wikipedia right now, just to show you they all telling us the same thing. Listen though, this is important. Easter is nothing else than Astarte, one of the titles of Beltis, the Queen of Heaven. The Bible mentions the Queen of Heaven. We're going to read it. Then it says, whose name, as pronounced by the people of Nineveh, was evidently identical with that now in common use in this country. This name, as found by Layard on the Assyrian monuments, is Ishtar. Assyrian monuments. That's when we went into captivity. I think we went into captivity with them first, because Assyria, I think, was Babylon. So, and what were they dealing with? Ishtar. And what do you get out of Ishtar? Ishtar, Astarte, Easter. It's all the same. They telling us this. So this ain't got nothing to do with Jesus. So far, we ain't read nothing about Jesus or the Bible, except for the Bible told us to leave this stuff alone. Now, who is Tammuz? That's the question. A lot of people are not familiar with Tammuz. A lot of people are familiar, but they're not putting all this. Let me see. They're not putting all this together. So what we got to do, we got to speak on it, and we're gonna read on it. But before, right? You know what? Before I even go into that, I'm gonna read something. I might have to rearrange something. We're gonna see. But it says Tammuz, also known as Dumuzi, was the name of an ancient Near Eastern deity. Where, if you're Near Eastern, where are you at? Mesopotamia, possibly. The Middle East, Israel. But who runs that area today? Islam. Islam is very much in the same boat as the Catholic Church. They got the same type of rosary beads to an extent. They got a lot of stuff. That's a whole other thing to get into. But when you understand how close they are and how they working hand in hand, the Pope go over there and bow to them and kiss their feet. And the Pope gives you Easter on Sunday based off of what? We just read this. Easter is based off of ancient Mesopotamian Middle Eastern gods. But who runs Mesopotamia and Middle East? Islam. He's giving you their gods. He's just giving it to you under the false flag of Christianity. And we fall for it. It says Tammuz, also known as Dumuzi, was the name of an ancient Near Eastern deity who was best known for his patronage of herdsmen and his romantic entanglement with Inanna. Remember that name? Then it says in parentheses, just in case you don't, the Sumerian goddess, also known as, you guessed it, Astarte or Ishtar. So Tammuz was in a relationship, so they say, with Ishtar. But Ishtar is where Easter comes from. So Tammuz go with Easter. Let's see what the Bible says about Tammuz. And what does the Bible say about Easter? Did I say anything about the Queen of Heaven yet? Mm-hmm. I did? Okay, because I want to make sure before I jump into this, because the Queen of Heaven is known as Astarte or Ishtar. That's the Queen of Heaven. So what does the Bible say about these things? Because we clear now on Easter having nothing to do with the Bible from its origins. We're going to deal with the current day soon, but with its origins, right? So I need you to put this one in here. Let me see how I want to do this. Let's get Jeremiah 44. And I guess I'll just start at 15. That's how I want to do it. So you got Jeremiah 44 and what I said, 15? Mm-hmm. All right, so let's do that. It says, then all the men which knew that their wives had burned incense unto other gods, and all the women that stood by, a great multitude, even all the people that dwelt in the land of Egypt and Pathros answered Jeremiah, saying, as for the word that thou hast spoken unto us in the name of the Lord, we will not hearken unto thee. So they said, we ain't listening to God. He told them what was going on, and they said, we ain't listening to God. What that sound like? They're going to do the same thing they've been doing, right? Well, hopefully when I give you the word of the Lord today, you won't be like them. Let's continue. Verse 17. This is what they said we're going to do instead of listening. But we will certainly do whatsoever thing goeth forth out of our own mouth to burn incense unto who? The Queen of Heaven, and to pour out drink offerings unto her, as we have done, we and our fathers, our kings, and our princes in the cities of Judah, the cities of Judah now, Middle East, and in the streets of Jerusalem, Middle East. For we had plenty of victuals and were well and saw no evil. But since we left off to burn incense to the Queen of Heaven and to pour out drink offerings unto her, we have wanted all things and have been consumed by the sword and by famine. So when you continue to go into this, they baked cakes to her, they did all kinds of stuff because they were venerating their God. They were getting some true worship into the Queen of Heaven. But we just read that the Queen of Heaven is Ishtar, also known as Astarte. And we got these names because we looked at the etymology of the word Easter, which took us back to Astarte and Ishtar. All these names are the same goddess. So Easter has nothing to do with the Bible unless you want to bring up this part where you talk about the worshiping of the Queen of Heaven. So with that being said, let's roll. We're going to roll because we got to get a little bit more of this because we need to know why Sunday. What is so important about Tammuz and Ishtar, or I want to call her Easter, because that's what in today's time through transliteration, that's what we have. Easter. Tammuz, a false god, and Easter, a false god, together combined for two false gods for us to worship up under the banner of Christianity, picking up Easter eggs and chasing bunny rabbits or whatever people do. Let's see. Let's get Ezekiel 8 and 13 because they said they was worshiping the sun too. We already covered the Queen of Heaven, right? So let's get a little bit more. We're getting Ezekiel 8 and 13. It's crazy how easy this stuff goes together if we take our time to look at what we're doing, see where it comes from, and see the Bible actually speaking on it. I could see if the Bible didn't speak on it. It's a lot of things the Bible don't speak on, and it may leave people in limbo or in a mystery mind. But here, this is clear here. This is very clear. So Ezekiel 8 and 13 through 17. He said also unto me, turn thee yet again, and thou shalt see greater abominations that they do. So whatever we get ready to turn and see, these are some great abominations, even greater than whatever you read the previous 12 verses. Must be some big time stuff they're doing. Let's see. Then he brought me to the door of the gate of the Lord's house. So he brought him to the church, right? Which was towards the north. And behold, there sat women weeping for Tammuz. Wait a minute. They in church worshiping Tammuz. How could this be? Could they have been celebrating Easter before Easter was called Easter? Because Easter was also called Astarte, Ashtaroth, Ishtar, all these false gods that mean nothing and have no power. But we gave them power, our power. They dealing with Tammuz and Easter right here. Wait, we in Ezekiel, right? That's Old Testament. We ain't found no death or resurrection of Jesus yet. We ain't even got to Matthew. But yet we got to Easter celebration. Let's continue and see. Verse 15. Then said he unto me, hast thou seen this, O son of man? Turn thee yet again, and thou shalt see greater abominations than these. So greater than the women worshiping Tammuz. Now we're getting ready to see. Because this, now we're going to see something even worse, obviously, according to the Bible. But I want y'all to do y'all research on these women that was at church weeping for Tammuz. What was this about? Because remember, Tammuz and his wife Easter are representing fertility. So I wonder what was going on in the church. If they was dealing with fertility. I'm just keeping the kid friendly. But for me to say that, hopefully y'all can do y'all research on Tammuz and see what else it leads you to that has nothing to do with this God of the Bible. Here we go. It says in 16, and he brought me into the inner court of the Lord's house. And behold, at the door of the temple of the Lord, between the porch and the altar, were about 25 men, with their backs towards the temple of the Lord. So they outside, right, in the inner court, but they not getting ready to walk in the church because they're not facing the church. It said their backs was where? It said their backs was towards the temple. So their back is facing the temple. They went to the church and turned their back to the temple. They turned their back on the house of the Lord. And what else did they do? It says, and their faces, that's where you see, right? And their faces towards the east. And they worship the sun towards the east. I told y'all, keep in mind, Sunday worship. And here it is, Sunday worship. It says they worship the sun towards the east. Where do you think they get Sunday worship from? Do your research. See, I ain't got time to present everything. But do your research on Sunday worship. It was called the Day of the Sun. And when you do your Sunday worshiping, this is where you got it from. Not just Easter. Easter was just a bigger day because Easter was based on Tammuz, right? And his wife or counterpart, girlfriend, Easter, Ashtaroth, Astarte, Ishtar, all these different names, because all these different cultures had their own way of venerating the same God. So they called her something different. But we see that she represented fertility. And we see that when we went and was doing the research, when I first started, it said that it was also about the worshiping of the sun. So here lies Sunday worship. It's clear, but I know they're going to pack the churches tomorrow, and they want to get there when the sun is at the high point of the day and worship all the way up until the high point is leaving, and they have no idea why they're doing that. It's because they are venerating Tammuz and Easter. Or Ishtar. I don't want to confuse you. It's the same God. But see, Easter has a particular day that the Catholic Church gave you and said, I want y'all to take this day above all days. So let me see. Where was my stopping point at this? I want to make sure I get all of this. 17, right? Okay, so one more. It says, then he said unto me, hast thou seen this, O son of man? Is it a light thing to have filled? Is it a light thing? Let's skip something. To the house of Judah that they commit the abominations which they commit here? For they have filled the land with violence and have returned to provoke me to anger. And lo, they put the branch to their nose. When you go into that, that's going to lead you into witchcraft. That's another lesson that we got to keep it moving. So now we're going to move on because we have completely revealed Easter and all of the names behind it and its counterpoint Tammuz, and found its worship in the Bible. We ain't found no eggs. We ain't found nothing. Boiled, scrambled, hidden, found with no eggs, no basket, no hunting, no none of that. So now, let's see what the Bible says about the Catholic side, the Christianity side. So let's keep moving. Let's get Matthew 12 and 39 because they say Good Friday is when he died, and Easter Sunday is when he rose. He rose on the third day. So now that he rose on the third day, this is why we worship Easter and deal with it accordingly. So we're going to see for ourselves what the Bible actually says because we're going to see that this is false too. So Matthew 12 and 39. All right. Let's see. It says, but he answered, talking to them asking about a sign. He said, but he answered and said unto them, an evil and adulterous generation seeketh after a sign, and there shall no sign be given to it but the sign of the prophet Jonas. Now this is Jesus talking, right? Let's see what sign he said. It says, for as Jonas was 3 days and 3 nights, not 2.5, 3 days and 3 nights in the whale's belly, so shall the Son of Man be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth, right? So he's telling you when I die, it's going to be 3 days and 3 nights, not 3 days and 2 nights or 3 nights and 2 days. I think people be getting stuff confused for some reason. Counting to 3 is real hard. But let's say he died on Good Friday, as they said. I really wouldn't even understand why they call it Good Friday, because there's nothing good about crucifying an innocent man. However, they're going to point towards what we gain from it. So cool. Good Friday. That's one day, right? Saturday, there's 2 days. Sunday, 3 days. Sounds good, right? But is that how we count the days? So let's say he died on Good Friday at 2 o'clock p.m. So 2 o'clock, Good Friday, to Saturday 2 o'clock would be 1 day. Saturday 2 o'clock to Easter Sunday at 2 o'clock when you in church would be 2 days. We're missing a whole day. So, but we should already know that this wouldn't make sense because I showed you where it came from and it had nothing to do with God, nothing to do with the Bible. Let's continue though. Let's continue. Let's get Ephesians 4 and 8. Let's see what he was talking about when he said this. Ephesians 4 and 8. Because when he died, he said it was going to be like Jonas, right? Or Jonah in the whale, right? So let's see. Let's not just hear about it. Ephesians 4 and 8 through 10. All right, it says, wherefore he saith, when he ascended up on high, he led captivity captive and gave gifts unto men. Now that he ascended, so he rose, what is it but that he also descended first into the lower parts of the earth? Y'all see that? He that descended is the same also that ascended up far above all the heavens, that he might fulfill all things. So he had to fulfill everything. We focus on the fulfillment that we want to see, the resurrection, but not the death and the descending. So where did he go? If he died and he didn't go up, but he descended, he went into the lower parts of the earth, as the scripture said, right? How long was he there? He just told you, just like Jonas, 3 days and 3 nights. If I count 3 days and I count 3 nights from Good Friday, I cannot get Easter Sunday. I'm going to get Workday Monday. That don't make no sense. We can't count the 3 people. Let's continue. Matthew 27 and 62. Let's get it explained. Let's get it explained. Because I could sit here and talk about it, but y'all gonna get that tomorrow. Those that go. Matthew 27 and 62. I don't want a whole lot of talk. Let's just go straight to it. I gotta establish something real quick. 62 through 66. These are the real 3 days. We're gonna count them. Now, the next day that followed the day of preparation. When is the day of preparation? That's the day before the Sabbath, right? Because that's what it's for, to prepare for the Sabbath. Watch the Sabbath video for more explanation on that. However, at the end of the day, I want to make sure that I show everything. So we are definitely going to show, this day of preparation in the scriptures. But I just want to go here and then we'll go there. So now the next day that followed the day of preparation, the chief priests and Pharisees came together unto Pilate, saying, Sir, we remember that deceiver said while he was yet alive, after 3 days I will rise again. Did he say on the 3rd day? Did he say on the 3rd day? Did he say in 3 days? Let's read it. Let's read it again. Because they say reading is fundamental, but at the same time, we read about, are we comprehending? Let's take our time. Saying, Sir, we remember that deceiver, talking about Jesus, right? While he was yet alive, after, what did he say? After After, not during the third day, not in 3 days. After 3 days, I will rise again. Verse 64. Command, therefore, that the sepulchre be made sure. So he said, I want y'all to secure this thing. Since he said he's going to rise in 3 days, well, after 3 days, let's lock this thing down. He said, be made sure until the third day, lest his disciples come by night and steal him away, and saying to people, he is risen from the dead. So the last era shall be worse than the first. Pilate said unto them, ye have a watch, go your way, make it as sure as you can. So look, sure up this thing, right? So they went and made the sepulchre sure, sealing the stone and setting a watch. He said, okay, after 3 days, we're going to be here all the way until the third day. Why? Because after the third day, once evening comes, 3 days is complete. Even they could count the 3 back then. Let's continue, though. Let's continue. That's Matthew 27, right? Let me see. Let's get Mark 15 and 42. Mark chapter 15, verse 42. So what? Oh, okay, I'm tripping. Mark 15 and 29. I knew I was going to do that too. I knew it. Mark 15 and 29 through 31, I believe. Mm-hmm. All right, let's do it. And they that passed by railed on him, wagging their heads, and saying, though thou destroyest the temple and buildest it in 3 days, save thyself and come down from the cross. So they was mocking him, right? Then it says, likewise, also the chief priests mocking said among themselves with the scribes, he saved others, himself he cannot save. So they was turning up on him, right? He can't save nobody but himself. That's what they were saying. Let's look a little deeper into this, though. Let's look at this again. It said they passed on him, right? Passed by, everybody mocking him. But what did it say? It says, thou that destroyest the temple and buildest it in 3 days. What temple is going to be destroyed and built in 3 days? We'll see later on. Then it says, save thyself and come down from the cross. Why don't you just come down now? Because he had to fulfill something. It says, likewise, also the chief priests mocking said among themselves with the scribes, yeah, he talking about he saved other people, right? He died for their sins. He saved them. He can't save himself. Let's continue, though. We're going to stay in Mark 15, and we're going to drop down to 42. And we're going to see how this went. It says, and I want y'all to keep in mind this very next verse I'm about to read, because I told you earlier that the day of preparation was the day before the Sabbath. If the Sabbath is Saturday, the day of preparation would be what? Friday, right? Let's see. It says, and now when the evening was come, and remember, evening to evening is a day. Go back to Genesis 1 and see that. So when it say the evening coming in, a new day coming in. It says, and now when the evening was come, because it was the preparation, that is, the day before the Sabbath. So when is the day of preparation? The day before the Sabbath, right? So if the evening is coming in, that means they are on what day? Friday, right? Friday is getting ready to come in. Let's continue. It says, Joseph of Arimathea, an honorable counselor, which also waited for the kingdom of God, came and went in boldly unto Pilate and craved the body of Jesus. And Pilate marveled if he were already dead. And calling unto him the centurion, he asked him whether he had been any while dead. And when he knew it of the centurion, so he got his answer, he gave the body to Joseph. He dead? Cool, go ahead and take him. Let's see what they're going to do. And he brought fine linen and took him down and wrapped him in linen and laid him in the sepulchre which was hewn out of a rock, and rolled a stone into the door of the sepulchre. So, y'all see what's going on here? I got one more. And Mary Magdalene and Mary, the mother of Jesus, beheld where he was laid. So they seen where he was laid at. Question is, when did he die? Because they said he died on Good Friday, right? But when is Friday according to the Bible? The day of preparation, right? But it says, and now when the evening was come, because it was the preparation, that day is coming in. Friday is coming in. How is he killed on Good Friday? But right here, Friday is coming in, but he already dead. So it can't be both. It can't be Good Friday and we believe the Bible. It can't be both. It has to be one or the other, but the Bible has already let us know the seventh day is the Sabbath, and the day of preparation is the day before the Sabbath. And that day starts on Friday, but it's according to how we count the days, but at sundown. So really, when I say Friday night, not Friday night going into Sabbath or Saturday, but Thursday at sundown starts a new day. So Thursday at sundown is when your Friday is supposed to start. They've confused you by messing up the day, talking about 12 a.m. So if you understood when the day started, you would say, wait a minute. Because it was the preparation coming in, that means Friday was just getting ready to start and he was already dead. So when did he die? He died on Good Friday? Maybe he died on Thursday. We got to do the math. Because if he died on Thursday, and you go Thursday to Friday, that's one day. You go Friday to Saturday, that's one day. You go Saturday to Sunday, that's one day. But guess what? That's still wrong, right? Because he didn't die in the third. He didn't rise in the third day. He had to do 3 days and 3 nights. So let's count it again, because this is what confuses people. Thursday, we're just going to pick a time. Let's say he died Thursday at 2 p.m. That was definitely, we got to say Thursday, because it has to be before the day of preparation, because he was dead when the day of preparation was coming in, which is Friday. So if he died on Thursday at 2 p.m., Friday at 2 p.m. makes one day, right? Saturday at 2 p.m. makes 2 days. Am I correct? Sunday makes 3 days. So now we're going to keep reading. But now we're just going somewhere, and on our way there, we getting what we can, because I could have made this quicker, but I wanted to make sure that we took our time and counted the days and walked them down. So, all right, let's go to Mark 16. Mark 16 and 1. All right. I'm sitting here saying Mark 16 and 1, and I ain't go yet. All right, Mark 16 and 1. It says, and when the Sabbath was passed, what is the Sabbath? The seventh day, right? So if the Sabbath is passed, we are at the very least, we are at Saturday night, because the day ends at sundown and begins when it's total darkness, right? So when it says when the Sabbath had passed, we are anywhere between sundown on Saturday and the next day, which is Sunday. Let's see what happens. Mary Magdalene and Mary, the mother of James, and Solomon had brought sweet spices that they might come and anoint him. Now remember, Easter says he rose on Easter Sunday. We are on Sunday right now because the Sabbath was passed. We're going to see. It says, verse 2. And very early in the morning, the first day of the week. We know it won't be the Sabbath because it say the first day of the week. If the Sabbath is Saturday and the whole world knows it, what's the first day of the week? Sunday. So they came when? On Sunday, early in the morning. It just said that. It was, and not just early, and very early in the morning, because they wanted to beat everybody there so that they could get his body and do what? Anoint it with the sweet spices. It says they came into the sepulchre at the rising of the sun. So they're there early Sunday morning, right? And they said among themselves, who shall roll us away the stone from the door of the sepulchre? I guess they didn't think about that on the way up there. And when they looked, they saw that the stone was rolled away for it was very great. And entering into the sepulchre, they saw a young man sitting on the right side, clothed in a long white garment, and they were affrighted. And he said unto them, be not affrighted. Ye seek Jesus of Nazareth, he already knew, which was crucified. He is risen. He is not here. Behold, the place where they laid him. So this is the place where they laid him, but he is risen. He is not here. So how are we going to teach that? How are we going to teach that Jesus died on Good Friday and rose on Sunday? And we just counted. We know we can't get 3 days out of that, right? We know we can't get 3 days out of that. And then we turn right around and we say, okay, all right, well, he must have still rose on Sunday morning. No, they went early Sunday morning and he had already gone. But we already knew that would be the case because it said the Sabbath had passed. I can't understand where the confusion is. It shouldn't be confusing. So here's what I want everybody to think about. We done cut out the 3 days that everybody's saying. Everybody's counting 2 days. So Good Friday to Easter Sunday is gone. Jesus rising early Sunday morning is gone because they went before early. They went very early. And guess what? He had already risen, right? So what is left? What is left? That's what I want people to think about. We did the math. And look, before we even did the math, we looked at what Easter was about and where it came from, right? We did everything we were supposed to do today. We did our due diligence. Or at least everything I could think of to get people to see. To get people to see. So I'm going to say it, and then hopefully people can understand. Jesus died on Wednesday. Jesus died on Wednesday, and he rose on the Sabbath because he had to do 3 days and 3 nights. If we do the math, all we got to do is, you can start, if you can't do math that good, it's okay. Start any day of the week and just count 3 days and 3 nights. You know it had to be on the Sabbath because when they came and the Sabbath had passed, he was already risen, right? So that's why I say this shouldn't be too hard for us to figure out the day and the time. So it's up to you what you continue to do from here, right? I'm gonna read one more. I'm gonna add something. I'm going to John 19 and 31. I gotta do that. Yeah. I'm gonna get that. I'm gonna say that last. John 19 and 31. Some things you gotta show in different places so that there's no confusion. All right, so let's see. I know some people say, well, you know, if you go into the Old Testament and Daniel, it talks about him dying in the midst of the week. Some people debate whether that's talking about Christ or not. So I didn't want to go deeper to that. What I wanted to do was make it as easy as we can, since what we're talking about is something that it's important because it's about the worshiping the other gods and not the Most High. That's what you got going on with this. So I wanted to be as simple as I could in showing what's really going on. So what was that? John 19 and 31. All right. It says, the Jews, therefore, because it was the preparation. Now, we already proved the preparation was Friday, right? It was Friday. Because it was the preparation that the body should not remain upon the cross on the Sabbath day. So they said, look, we're going to take the body down on Friday, on the day of preparation, because we don't want the body on the Sabbath day. Why? For that the Sabbath day was a holy day. We saw Pilate that their legs might be broken and that they might be taken away. And so when you continue to read, you realize they did not break his legs because he is the lamb without blemish, and you can't break the legs of that lamb when you're talking about the Passover. I wanted to go here just to show once again, he was already dead before the Saturday and before Friday, because it's when the preparation was getting ready to come in, they said, look, we got to go ahead and take the body down. That means he already died. So if you start at Wednesday, anytime you want to start, I'm going to pick my time I've been picking. 2 p.m. on Wednesday. 2 p.m. to 2 p.m. Wednesday to 2 p.m. Thursday, one day. 2 p.m. Thursday to 2 p.m. Friday, 2 days. 2 p.m. Friday to 2 p.m. on the Sabbath. 3 days, right? They take it, they come in after those 3 days is up, because the scripture actually says after the Sabbath, after those 3 days are up, what happens after those 3 days? They came in and his body was already risen. So it just calculates and makes sense that he was crucified. I think it actually says on the 3rd hour. I don't know what that is because I think they did the time just a little different. But it actually says he was crucified, I think, the 3rd hour, but it was Wednesday. He said 3 days and 3 nights. I'm going to be in the heart of the earth like Jonah was with the whale. So 3 days and 3 nights, I'm going to be gone. So that's the reason I do 2 p.m. to 2 p.m. because you got to do 3 days and you got to do the nighttime part. So 3 days. If you was going on a cruise and they said you get 3 days and 3 nights, and then when Friday come, and if you start Wednesday, Thursday, Friday in the daytime, they say the cruise was over, you're going to say, no, I get 3 nights too, because that's what I paid for, right? 3 days and 3 nights is always the same. It's just 3 days, 3 24-hour periods, or however you want to look at it. Sundown to sundown, however you want to look at it. It's 3 days and 3 nights. 3 days from Wednesday, Wednesday to Thursday, Thursday to Friday, Friday to Saturday. They came in the first day of the week, right after the Sabbath passed. He had already risen because he had already did his 3 days and 3 nights. Easter Sunday, Good Friday has nothing to do with the Bible. It is a wicked and pagan tradition, a custom after the Mesopotamians, the Romans, and who knows how far back it goes, because it went to as far as the Canaanites, the Phoenicians, and the Babylonians. The Bible has already told us stay away from this practice, because we found this practice of sun worship with the same gods attached to it in Jeremiah and in Ezekiel that had nothing to do with Christ, because that was before Christ was born. Hopefully somebody gained some understanding from this. When Easter Sunday comes, just treat it like a regular day, because you late anyway if you're trying to do the death and resurrection. You missed it by 1 day. So it'd be better to go ahead and find out when the Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread is, because that is the real, not holiday, but holy day that the Most High has commanded us to do our best keep. You want to know what that is? Search my channel for those videos. Appreciate your time. Like, share, and subscribe. I appreciate everybody that's done it so far. That's it. I'm gone.